السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. قد لا تواجه اسكتلندا مستوى التهديد الإرهابي نفسه الذي خبرته وترتعد منه دول أوروبية أخرى اليوم، إلا أنها غير منيعة تجاه أي عمل إرهابي راديكالي عنيف، ولعل الشرطة الاسكتلندية تعمل بجد لتلافي هذا التهديد. من داخل مقر الشرطة في اسكتلندا معكم زينب صفار، تابعونا. هو زمن دقيق وحساس في تاريخ العلاقات الغربية الإسلامية، نظراً للتهديد العالمي لداعش والأعداد غير المسبوقة للمسلمين الأوروبيين الذين جندوا وسافروا إلى مناطق النزاعات في المنطقة العربية، ولا سيما أن آخر التقديرات تشير إلى أن التهديد الحالي من أعمال إرهابية عالمية في كل المملكة المتحدة هو بمستوى خطير، بيد أن المشاكل الأقل نسبياً التي شهدتها اسكتلندا مع التطرف العنفي تستحق الدراسة. وأحد التفسيرات لذلك هو أن طبيعة الجسم السياسي والتوجهات السياسية في اسكتلندا، بالإضافة إلى نوعية المهاجرين القادمين من جنوب آسيا من المرتاحين اقتصادياً، قد ساهمت في التقليل من جاذبية ما يعرف بالبروباغندا الجهادية القائمة على التظلم. ولكن جيوباً لمسلمين متطرفين وما تقدمه داعش من إغراءات سياسية عالمية وتشويه للإسلام في سبيل نشر عقيدتها، وكذلك المخاوف المستمرة من عناصر متشددة ضمن الجالية الباكستانية، تشير إلى أن اسكتلندا ليست عصية ومنيعة من تهديد إرهابي عنيف بحسب المتابعين. ولعل ما يميز اسكتلندا القاطنة شمالاً على كتف المملكة المتحدة هو ما بات يعرف بالاستثنائية الاسكتلندية للاندماج الناجح للمسلمين، ويعود الفضل فيه إلى توجه سياسي اجتماعي ديمقراطي، وهو نموذج جذاب ولا سيما للأقليات. ولكن جغرافيا اسكتلندا السياسية فتحت عينها على التطرف العنيف، بيد أنها في الآن نفسه أعمت عينها عن التداعيات البعيدة المدى والمحتملة للمتابعة بمقاربة لينة تجاه الراديكالية. فالتسامح الكبير في اسكتلندا قد يكون أرضاً خصبة لتنامي الحركات الإسلامية المتطرفة التي قد تتبنى خطاباً مناهضاً للغرب ورفضاً إيديولوجياً للحداثة وتفسيرات مشوهة للإسلام، والذي في نهاية المطاف سيشكل صدعاً بين الفئات المتطرفة والأكثر ليبرالية، ولا سيما فيما بين الجالية الاسكتلندية من أصول باكستانية، الأمر الذي سيحدد المسار الذي ستسلكه الجالية المسلمة في اسكتلندا في المستقبل بحسب الباحثين. نائب رئيس الشرطة في اسكتلندا والمسؤول عن الدعم التشغيلي لمكافحة الجريمة وملف مكافحة الإرهاب روري نيكلسون يتحدث من داخل مقر الشرطة الاسكتلندية عن الأمن في البلاد وظهور التطرف وتضافر المجتمعات المختلفة في اسكتلندا مع الشرطة لحماية المجتمع ومجابهة الإرهاب، وعن قرار الشرطة الأخير بالسماح لفتيات مسلمات محجبات بالانضمام إلى الشرطة الاسكتلندية، وعن انعكاس هذا القرار على المجتمع وتحصينه. Deputy Chief Constable, Crime and Operational Support in Police Scotland, Mr. Rory Nicholson, welcome to الداخل from the inside, sir, from the police headquarters.
Thank you.
You're most welcome, sir. Well, sir, you served in the serious crime squad, rising through the ranks to Deputy Chief Constable, responsible for organized crime, counterterrorism and safer communities in Police Scotland. To what extent can we say that today is the society in Scotland safe in face of terror?
I would say that the society in Scotland is very safe, whether that's from organised crime or from terrorism. So that's not just about policing, it's working directly with communities themselves to make sure that they're safe. that they understand what the threats are and what it is that they can do to make sure that we minimise the threats right across Scotland and the threats to whatever community that happens to be.
How do you go about this, engaging with the communities? I mean, in Scotland, you tend to have tens and tens of communities living together in harmony, and they have very great respect to the police of Scotland.
Well, we work very closely with all our communities, so that's really important. So it's going out, it's talking to people, it's engaging with them, it's making sure that we understand their unique problems and we actually do something about that. So on a day-to-day basis, my people are out in every single community in Scotland, making sure that they feel safe, doing everything we possibly can to make sure that they feel safe. If we want to talk about hate crime, making sure that we've got a zero tolerance approach to hate crime, make sure that we help people, we do everything we possibly can to minimise hate crime, and we make sure that people feel that they're part of Scottish society, and I think that's very important.
How do you differentiate between hate crimes and hate incidents, for example?
Well, we would get reports of hate incidents, and then we would investigate and we would see whether that meets the threshold of it being a hate crime. The most important thing here, though, is people's perception of what's actually going on. So we need to deal with perception more, perhaps more than reality, but also reality.
Sir, sometimes the culture of certain communities is very much away from the standards of thinking, perhaps, here in Scotland. So it becomes very delicate and sensitive. How do you approach this issue?
Well, so we've approached it on a number of different levels, and I wouldn't suggest that I know and understand the culture of every single individual in Scotland, but what I try to do is understand that, but I know that my people do. So my people engage at every single level, so whether that's the young to the elders of the various communities, understand what the issues are, understand what the cultural issues are, and then we have a bespoke police service that actually deals with that. So we make sure that we understand the culture. We don't give the same service to every single person. We look at
So you go according to the peculiarities of each culture and each community.
Absolutely. That's very important.
That's very tough.
It's very tough, but it's worth doing. It's very rewarding when we get it right, and we get it right most of the time, I think, in Scotland. But no doubt that we get it wrong sometimes. But we do everything we possibly can to make sure that we know, understand the cultures, understand the different cultures, the nuances within cultures as well, and make sure that we apply policing to whatever the issue is and the differences are.
Right. Yet an observer notes that, and I'm quoting him, pockets of Islamist extremism, the Islamic State's global political allure, and distortion of Islam to spread its worldview, and ongoing concerns about ultra-Orthodox elements in certain communities suggest that Scotland is far from immune to the threat of violent jihadism. How accurate is this?
Well, I don't think that's accurate in its entirety. Of course, we will have individuals who will become radicalised, and of course, from a policing perspective, we need to do something about that. So what we need to do, what my people are trying to do, is understand that at a very, very early stage so that we can actually do something about it. So we prefer to talk about vulnerability, we talk about safeguarding, and we keep away from the prevent agenda as much as we possibly as we can. And if we start focusing on people's vulnerabilities, whatever that vulnerability happens to be, so if it's radicalisation, then we do something about it as early as we possibly can so that it doesn't manifest itself into extremism, violence and whatever else.
Right. What do you mean, sir, by vulnerabilities?
Well, a whole range of vulnerabilities that we would understand in terms of children, so whether that's sexual exploitation, whether it is radicalisation, and a whole range of other things in terms of children and how they grow up in communities. What we need to do is understand that radicalisation, extremism, might be one vulnerability that if we nip it in the bud early, then it wouldn't manifest itself in what we see elsewhere.
Right. In a comment to the Peace and Unity Conference, the chief of the Police Scotland said, quote, "Since coming to Scotland, I have been immensely impressed by the collaboration, community spirit and unity across faiths here, when other parts of the UK, Europe and internationally the rest of the world risk becoming more divided." What makes the society in Scotland that cohesive, that coherent?
I think that working together, so it's a very small community, we've got 5.5 million people. I think that by everybody working together, doing the things like the Peace and Unity conference that we're going to have this evening, it's really important to have faiths coming together, understanding each other and working together. So that's what allows people to work in harmony. You know, whether they absolutely integrate or not is probably not as important as being able to work together, live together in a cohesive manner and work in harmony as they go about their daily business, whatever that is.
That's very interesting. Now, security measures at airports and on the street, I'm just trying to quote some issues we've read about and we want to know your piece of information about. So security measures at airports and on the street remain a key tool in preventing terrorism and apprehending suspects. In Scotland, Muslim reactions to these measures have been mixed. Some have lamented checks at Scottish airports to be disproportionately directed toward their community, although there are no publicly available statistics to support or disprove these claims. In 2011, some prominent members of the community went as far as to boycott Glasgow International Airport. How accurate is this?
Well, so whether that's accurate or not, I don't know. But if we go back to 2011, which is 5 years ago, I know that there was a perception that there were difficulties at the airport. Myself and my people have worked really hard with the community, directly with the community. We had a 15-point action plan that we put together looking at what the issues and concerns were at the airport. All of these things are about dealing with people with respect. And if you deal with people with respect, the fact that we would stop them, we would speak to them, is less of an issue. But we need to make sure that we respect them as individuals, we respect their culture.
Of course.
And that's absolutely what we are doing in 2016.
And this is what we have touched upon since we landed here in Glasgow. Actually, sir, in discussing extremism and radicalization and how it can be tackled at grassroots levels as well as internationally, you have your own views and you have some reservations on the methodology in countering radicalization and extremism in the UK. Can you explain this further, please?
So, from a Scottish perspective, without referring to the UK or broader or what approach other people have, from a Scottish perspective, what I firmly believe is engagement is so important. Engagement at every level, so that's from youth to elders, as I previously said. And that engagement, understanding what the issues are, understanding what the differences between communities are, whether that's culturally, religiously, or whatever. And if we understand that as a police service, then we're able to deal with whatever the differences are. So we can deal with it when criminality has been committed in terms of hate crime. But where I would prefer to be dealing with is in the pre-crime space, where we can do something before
to avoid
these kind of crimes being committed. And that's the work that my people do on a day-to-day basis, is have that real understanding of exactly what's happening, what the differences are, what the issues are, and actually doing something about it very early, nipping it in the bud, making sure that it doesn't manifest.
Like preemptive measures.
Preemptive measures,
right.
Proactive.
Sir, I would appreciate if you can just enlighten us and tell us about what are the major challenges facing Scotland today, and how does the police in Scotland attempt to face such kind of challenges?
Well, the major challenges are, first of all, from a terrorism perspective, that we're at severe, the same as the rest of the United Kingdom, so we need to know and understand exactly what's happening in the country from that perspective. Fairly obviously, the whole world is moving into cyber, cyberspace. different criminality being committed in different ways by serious organised crime. So we will have criminals from all over the world impacting on Scotland, something that we wouldn't have had 20 years ago. So these are the kind of things that we really need to focus on. We've got child sexual exploitation, that's a key worry for us. And we've been doing work, we need to do much more in terms of that. We need to look at human trafficking and really understand that. Now, of course, we don't have the profile of any of these, and that the rest of the UK or the rest of Europe has, but we need to make sure that we do what we can for the people of Scotland, all the communities of Scotland, to make sure that they don't suffer from any of these crimes in the future.
Right, Deputy Chief Constable Crime and Operational Support in Police Scotland, Mr. Rory Nicholson, many thanks indeed for joining us from the police headquarters in Scotland.
Thank you.
You're most welcome, sir. We're going to stop now for a short break, and then after the break we're going to listen more to more activities of engagement of the communities, far more in the police of Scotland apparatus, but after the break, sir. إذا فاصل قصير ونعود، لا تذهب بعيدا. شاهين بابر رئيس المفتشين في قسم المجتمعات الأكثر أمنا في الشرطة الاسكتلندية يشرح ماهية إعلان الشرطة الاسكتلندية أن الحجاب سيصبح جزءا من بزتها الرسمية. التحرك الذي يأتي بعد مرور 15 عاما على تقديم شرطة العاصمة لضباط الشرطة في لندن خيار ارتداء الحجاب، فما الهدف من وراء اتخاذ هذه الخطوة الآن؟
Well, the aim of having the hijab as part of the official Police Scotland uniform is to be more inclusive and attract Muslim females that may want to join the police service of Scotland, and to reassure them that the hijab is an accepted part of the uniform. This is an official policy now. Even before this policy was announced, if any Muslim female wanted to join the police, that would have been considered. But now we have it as an official policy that to show inclusivity and to show that the Police Service of Scotland want to open up the service to all sections of the community, and where previously some Muslim females who wear the hijab may think that they can't apply for the police, now they know that they can. I believe the feedback I've had from many members of the different parts of the Muslim communities of Scotland, I've had some positive feedback of that it's a good initiative for the police to do this. We'll need to wait and see. We need more work to be done to encourage people from the Muslim communities and other minority communities to join the police. It's not just about the hijab, that's one part of the programme. We have an outreach department from the recruiting department to go out into the communities and encourage people to join and apply to join.
Now, is it approved only among police officers or also senior staff members to have like a female officer or senior staff member with a hijab?
Well, this is open to all and all levels of the police service.
So as long as you're competent, you can reach?
Absolutely, absolutely. We have a large amount of police staff that are not police officers. We have Muslim women that wear the hijab that already work for the police service. At the moment, we don't have a police woman, a police officer, female, that wears a hijab. But like I said, this outreach work that's also going on with the intention of going out to various parts of the community to encourage people to apply to join the police.
Bless your heart. Now, the reason I'm asking about this particular issue is that now there is a flurry, there is a wave of Islamophobia that is just sweeping more and more, exacerbating more across Europe, perhaps in the UK, in other parts of the world, Western parts of the world. But you have taken this step. This is a very massive, big step in this sense to include perhaps the communities more. So that's the issue that I was asking about, is why now at this particular moment in time? Why not before, for example? Why now? The communities have always been there.
No, well, like I said before as well, that if anybody applied to join the police before this policy was made official, they would still be considered. I understand what you're asking about Islamophobia that's happening in our society and in Europe. We hear about it all the time. But this is more than just about Islamophobia. This is about inclusivity, including all sections of the community in Scotland to be part of an organisation like Police Scotland.
Which is protecting every Scot.
The purpose of policing is to safeguard and ensure the well-being of all communities and all people. So we don't distinguish between one community or another. That's the beauty of policing. Our code of ethics of integrity and fairness and respect and human rights for all. So we don't judge any culture or anybody or any background. We act in fairness and we open up our organisation for all sections to be part of if they are merited to apply, then they should.
Right. Now, some observers note that Police Scotland's diversity drive follows statistics from the Scottish Police Authority released earlier this year, which showed just 127 or 2.6% of the 4,809 applications to join the force were from people with ethnic backgrounds. So you talked about inclusion, and it seems that the numbers speak louder than other things, that a minimal number of people from various other communities or the minorities, or call them what you want, are applying for the Police of Scotland.
Well, the statistics are an indicator to us that there's more work needs to be done, and we're trying that. We have a recruitment department in Police Scotland that has an outreach unit that go out to different areas of the community to encourage people to apply. But we also have to remember we're a small country. We only have 5.5 million people and a small number of minority groups. So the pool of potential recruits is also very small. So we have to be attractive to people to apply for the police.
Shaheen, in the context of inclusion, what problems do you face? There has to be problems.
Absolutely. I mean, we'd be naive to think there are no problems. There are problems in inclusivity. The problems we have in encouraging different sections of our communities to engage with each other, to improve community relations, to have interfaith and intrafaith dialogue, there are challenges. And those challenges can be political, could be historical, could be religious. Our view is that we will facilitate, we will support any section of the community, any group, any community individual that works towards dialogue and improving community relations, which ultimately will improve community cohesion and make society as a whole a much better place to live in.
Right. Now, at the same time that the burkini bans were spreading and raising hackles around the world, Canada and Scotland, they passed laws to allow Muslim female police officers to wear hijabs as part of their official uniforms. How do you explain the difference between France on the one hand and Canada and Scotland on the other?
Well, I'll talk about Scotland and what I know of the Scottish culture, of the British culture. It is about fairness and it's about rights, people's right to wear what they want. And that's what we believe. We believe in that equality. We understand that a piece of cloth may have a meaning, but that will not solve the problems that we are facing in our communities, the problems of extremism or radicalisation or intolerance. That has to be solved by talking, by dialogue, by encouraging each other to work together.
Right, Shaheen Babar, Chief Inspector, Safer Communities Department at the Police of Scotland. Many thanks indeed for joining us, sir.
Thank you very much.
You're most welcome, sir. إذا لقاء جديد في الأسبوع المقبل مع ضيف جديد وقضية جديدة ودائما من الداخل. للمزيد من التواصل بريدنا theinsight@almayadeen.net وصفحتنا على الفيسبوك من الداخل. من كل فريق عمل من الداخل من كل الميادين من اسكتلندا. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.